My next guest is no stranger to politics. After several years spent as the parliamentary leader of the official opposition, the DA, Lindiwe Mazibuko jetted off to Harvard University in the US before returning to establish the Future Elect, a platform engaged in personal leadership development for young people, also meant to empower them with public service skills. She believes there's no better time than now for young people and emerging leaders of different ideological backgrounds to enter the political space as well as government structures where they should actually lead. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon, Vuya.
It's been a very long time you've been here. People haven't seen a lot of you. Yes, they may have read your columns and so on. So what have you been up to?
As you say, I've been running Future Elect for the last 6 years, an organization I co-founded in 2017 to support a new generation of political leaders. We complain in this country a lot about the quality of leaders we have. I experienced both good and bad in terms of leadership in politics and government. And so I started this organization to support the young people who've made a decision that they want to enter the public service.
What exactly
to
do you
be the
do?
best
What are
leaders
the
they
sort
can
of
be.
things that you do with them?
So we run a peer learning leadership program in Southern Africa. We run a South African program for women who are running in the next elections. And we run a public leadership program in East Africa as well. We want to launch one in West Africa next year. And the idea is to support young people to develop their skills in personal leadership, understanding themselves, why they want to lead, in persuasion, negotiation, and influencing, the skills that every politician needs to do their job effectively, to lead and implement. And then lastly, in political systems, understanding the constitutional, the legal, and other frameworks that govern the work that they plan to do. And then also to introduce them to people from other political backgrounds who share their values about, anti-corruption, good governance and democracy, but who may differ on land reform, macroeconomic policy. And it's an opportunity for them to be in a space for 9 months with 29 other people who may not share their ideological values, but who can, iron files iron, talented people when they rub up against each other, can improve themselves, improve their skills, learn from elders, political elders who come and guest lecture, learn from other young leaders who come and guest lecture, and come out of the program with a new community of people who they may not sit in the same bench with, but one day when they're in a committee negotiating or when they're in the international arena discussing issues on a bilateral, multilateral basis, will be able to see each other as human beings rather than this very polarized form of politics we have where we call each other animals and we treat each other in an inhumane fashion. And I think from that sense of understanding that we are opponents, not enemies, I think we can build a better democratic system, a thriving democracy in this country.
Do you think our political system builds young people in any meaningful way?
No, not at the moment. I think currently our political system forces young people to be dependent on the generosity and the largesse of their elders. And many of our political elders are generous, are supportive, are very willing to be available to advise, to counsel, but also to make space for young people to do this work. But I think in the main, young people find themselves being asked to wait their turn until they're ready. They're told they're not ready. And the ridiculous thing is you don't see that in the private sector. You don't see that in education, civil society, anywhere else. It's only in politics that young people are told you're not ready. If you're a school principal at 30, it's fine. If you are a university lecturer in your 20s, that's fine.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think gatekeeping and power are very connected. I think that's one of the challenges we face as a continent, is we have leaders who transitioned us into democracy, who feel they have a God-given right to stay in power as long as they choose, that they shouldn't be subject to ordinary democratic competition, and that they should dictate the terms of their own departure. I think that's why you have constitutional amendments, coups, all kinds of non-democratic tendencies on the continent. They're really centered on the idea that this group of individuals who transitioned us into democracy or post-colonialism, post-apartheid, have some kind of God-given right to stay in power as long as they please, even as the continent has moved on. Its average age is 19, its majority is women, but it's not what its leaders look like. So we need to support young people to be engaged in that competitive politics, but also to be able to connect with the political elders who do want them to succeed and who do want to build them up. and empower them to lead in these countries.
I mean, given your characterization of the problems of our political system, do you see us going the route of some of our fellow brothers and sisters up north, where coups,
I don't like to think of us as exceptional. I think there's a big danger in South Africa of thinking of ourselves as the rainbow nation, the miracle. These things will never happen to us. And I don't think that's true. I think at any moment things could go wrong for us as a society. It's why we must be vigilant. It's why we must have a robust civil society and unapologetic media. People must have voices and be able to speak up. So yes, I do think we can at any time, with the wrong leader at the helm, taking power for whatever reason. I mean, I think in the United States, you have a democratically elected leader who tried to lead an insurrection against his own country, right? These people can get into power through democratic means and then become autocrats when they're in power. Nobody is immune. So our job is to be vigilant, to celebrate when we see that our democracy is robust and it's thriving. You've just had that now, I was very emotional backstage. 3 young black women, 3 different political parties in their 30s talking about the state of this country, which turned into a democracy when they were born, on a national stage, campaigning, representing their organizations. That's a huge sea change from where we were 30 years ago. But we can get caught up in that celebration and forget to be vigilant and remember that these things are great to celebrate, but they need to be protected and supported.
You heard us talking about the unemployment rate. I mean, more than half of young people, not at school, not in training, unemployed, and so on and so forth. And then on the other hand, you have these other challenges, of substance abuse, but you also have physical abuse where women, especially, young women are being abused. When one wonders, where this is going to leave us.
Yeah.
Because everyone, makes the claim that I will deal with this, but the fact of the matter is that 30 years on, young people in this country are having a raw deal.
When we think of so many of the social challenges we face, including gender-based violence, youth unemployment, psychological and mental health issues, many of them actually, return to the economic challenge. What is it like to be in your 30s or your 20s and have never had a job a day in your life? What is it like to have dropped out of school before you even hit your teens, and to have every single day to wake up in the morning and not know what the future holds for you? This kind of despair, this kind of lack of opportunity leads people to violence. It leads them to substance abuse. It leads them to, take pathways that can give them a temporary relief from the suffering that they feel. And so from a government perspective, from a governance perspective, the economy is central. Any government that seeks provincial and national government, and even local government, has to, at the forefront of its offer, be able to speak, particularly to young people who are, 70-odd% of them are unemployed in this country, have to be able to speak to an offer that will offer them hope and a realistic prospect of exiting this drudge of waking up every morning and not knowing what the future holds. And then it also has to offer a pathway out for new generations of young people who haven't even entered school yet, that this won't be their future. So I think that's incredibly important. But the other reason I think it's important for young people to lead is we underestimate the value of representation, of seeing people who look like you, who are your age, who have your background, succeeding against the odds, and then having that self-belief that a future for you that is similar is possible. So I think the combination of political parties taking leadership by young people for young people seriously.
So should young people flood the political system?
I think it should not be necessary to have a panel where you identify young people as a demographic and then ask them to talk about themselves. When you call in the international relations minister or the mayor of Tshwane or whoever you call in for a meeting or a discussion, it should be self-evident that they are under the age of 45, that they are part of this majority demographic that makes up this country. I look forward to that day when we're not having panels about women in leadership, about young people in leadership, that you can ask these questions in a mainstream fashion after you've asked questions about foreign relations and macroeconomic policy.
Would you go back to politics?
I would, under the right circumstances, but for now I'm really, really happy supporting citizens to be active and engaged in the political space and supporting a new generation of leaders who are younger than me. I'm not young anymore. To do great things and to not have to live through the challenges that perhaps we did as young leaders in a previous generation.
Really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for agreeing to come through.
Thank you, Vuyo.
Really appreciate it.